Hello, I'm Enzo, and today I'll be playing more Oxygen Not Included. And in this episode, as usual, we have a lot more stuff to do. Even though this is technically the second clip, I didn't want this to be the first clip. But here we go, a new duplicate. I'll name this one Frederick der Grosse. 12 building is an amazing stat to have. The most annoying part about clearing out a large area for a large project is, well, cleaning up all the debris. Especially if you're not using auto sweepers and don't have that many duplicates, so this is going to take a little while. One of the best ways to do this is just to build blocks over natural tiles, which excavates the block first, then places a new block, which pretty much means that the resources on it or in it will just drop down below. Basically procrastinating, making the problem for later. In recent playthroughs, I've actually been making dedicated pip rooms, both because, they plant arbor trees which can give you some extra lumber, but also as a way to store pips and potentially eggs for later transport, and of course later pip usage. Here I'm using ladders to properly space the planting of arbor trees so that they're at their maximum efficiency. They'll grow the most branches, they won't plant one next to each other. Yeah. Besides the occasional decor impact, it never really hurts to add more airflow to your base, especially in a mega base like this where you have a lot or all of your duplicates living. Also, free snazzy suit. In this playthrough, this is the first time that I've been using some of the new mechanics. For example, you can actually place temp shift plates or other buildings over other buildings. At first, I thought I could place the temp shift plates behind the mesh tiles, but I quickly figured out I was wrong, so keep that in mind for the future. You cannot place blocks in other blocks, it'll only try to replace it. Which was honestly a little disappointing because that would have been pretty epic, but You always have way more hydrogen than you need all throughout the game, at least until you get up to hydrogen rockets. But for now, we need a way to use it, and we need power, so here we are. I also decided to plug it into the anti-entropy thermonullifier to help use some more hydrogen, and it also cooled off the area, which actually proved to be insanely useful over time. And it seems like the pips are now working as intended. The other purpose of having a room for them is to control them, so that they don't plant plants wherever they feel like. Another important thing to know about bases is it's always important to have triage cots, especially before a disaster strikes. And especially if you're dealing with Toka shells. The AETN is also extremely useful cooling the entire place, which in turn keeps the coolant tank, relatively cool, so hopefully the pipe stops breaking and my duplicates stop wasting resources having to repair said pipe. One of the mods I have installed, I believe it's Duplicate Machinery or something like that, adds these boilers, which basically add burnable resource, natural gas, coal, lumber, and water, and you get steam. Makes sense, right? It's extremely hot steam. I just wanted to see how this worked, because I have an insanely good idea for these in the future. I just want to make sure I knew how they worked in the first place. So with my knowledge after using this, let me explain how it works. Pretty much, it stores up a certain amount of burnable resource, and it can hold up to like 1 ton of water, I believe. And it has an insane storage for steam as well. So that total capacity combines, all the different factors that can be put inside of it. But pretty much, yeah, it creates steam, nothing too special. However, it does actually have a gas output, which is incredibly useful, especially, and the best use I've found for it so far, is fueling up steam rockets. I mean, it's genius. It's a steam room all in one little building. It's awesome. If you couldn't tell already, this area is going to be my industrial brick. I'm going to be using these modded airlocks, mostly just because of how easy they are, and I don't produce enough crude oil to justify making a bunch of liquid locks right now. And I would say these are relatively balanced. Even though they do take more time and power, I like them a lot more. They're just easier to set up. If you're confused about this, well, I mean, yeah, I can see why. But I basically just need bridges where heavier, more powerful wires can be put instead of, the crappy little conductive wires. However, while we're on the topic of these modded airlocks, I've only found one issue, and that's this bug where duplicates have a tendency, if they're building it or in a weird position, to get stuck. If they get stuck on one of the doors, they're never coming out, unless you place a ladder or another block next to it. So just keep that in mind if you use this mod. Why did I wait so long to automate removing pinch row eggs? So many duplicates have just been hurt trying to take these out. I really don't know why I didn't do this sooner. I don't know why I haven't made an evolution chamber yet either. And still on the topic of these doors, I've also learned that I'm pretty sure you cannot mop these off. Because, it's similar to the standing bug where they can't interact with liquid above it. So that's why I generally put a roof or blocks on top of it to prevent duplicates from being duplicates. And next up, it looks a little weird, yes, but I have to reroute a good portion of my smaller power lines so that I can make way for a giant power spine, which is pretty much, your biggest potential wire that can hold the most power that just goes throughout your base and connects all of your major things together. Another good tip I have for industrial bricks while I'm vacuuming the entire place out is I generally like to have at least one metal refinery at the bottom. You may think this is weird, but it is an amazing source of heat which pretty much heats up the bottom if you don't have temp shift plates equaling out the temperature, but more importantly, it can turn the water at the bottom back into steam to fill the place up. Also, I have to say, the meters are pretty much my new favorite building in the game. They're just insanely useful for everything. But, what they're supposed to be used for is metering out a certain amount of liquid, and that's why I love them so much. I can put exactly 800 kilograms into each metal refinery. However, it probably isn't a great idea to run it while you're still trying to vacuum out the place. I mean, I know it's only a little bit of gas that's going to get superheated, but still, that could be a little bit annoying. Another important part of this run is how much I've learned from previous runs. So from now on, I'm going to be automating extremely important stuff like kilns. Because kilns can literally be completely automated. You just throw resources in a storage bin, put auto sweepers, and boom, it does everything themselves. This saves my duplicates an insane amount of labor over time. Some no pollution power generation, and batteries for power storage. Made out of steel, because, steam room. Spoiler alert, I tried to automate, well, at least partially automate with auto sweepers, most stuff in this game. The most important factories like glass and metal refineries. It does kind of work until your duplicates have more priorities than moving sand or other important resources. But it's at least useful in short bursts or for a little bit of operation. I was also planning to add auto sweeper setups to rock crushers, but since you have so many different options for what you put in rock crushers, I think it would just be logistically easier if I let the duplicates do it all themselves. I mean, technically they always do it themselves, but the storage bins let you store some stuff as a buffer before they have to do even more work. Now, there could be a million reasons why Neptune was sleeping, not on her bed, but I think the primary reason was the duplicates don't have enough downtime. So when you see something like this happen, just add another downtime slot. Usually works out. Here's a great example of why those steam boilers are so insanely useful. Just look at this. They can fill up a steam room, well, not quickly, but they can fill up a steam room. This is a lot better than the alternative of having to dump a ton, well, more than 1 ton, tons, shall I say, of water at the bottom and painfully slowly heating it up with a metal refinery. So, pretty good. Honestly, I didn't even expect to get this achievement this run, but, considering all of those kills that are going, I guess it kind of makes sense. So I guess it's actually an easy way to get the easy living achievement. Who knew? And of course, one of the most important parts of an industrial brick is a way to cool it down, so steam turbines, which as a dual function also produce power, which could be useful for helping to supplement how much power your industrial brick could eat up, but it usually doesn't do that much for me. It's usually just a way to remove water if there's too much, and more importantly, of course, cool down the place. Yeah, I may have made a little bit too much steam because I pumped in too much water and too much natural gas. But the other issue with using these boilers is they do produce a bunch of excess heat, which means this liquid reservoir did overheat and did break, but it's fine. I don't know if it outputs when it's broken, but it definitely can still accept inputs, which is cool. My next project is going to be hollowing out the area beneath the industrial brick, which has an insanely important purpose. The only thing that was annoying about hollowing this area out was that there were two different areas, each that had gas in them, so I had to hollow out some of the abyssite and then pump out the rest of the gas. But the annoying thing was pretty much the insane heat of the abyssite because it was touching magma. So thankfully it didn't get too hot before I managed to fix the issue. And the other reason for making the pip room was to move the pip from down here up there. We also happen to have quite a few pinch-row eggs. Yes, it would have been more efficient to just look at the menu, but I kind of forgot the UI scale, so I thought I'd be able to see more at this, but still, pretty good view of how many eggs we have. Looking back at the footage now, yeah, I definitely could have placed the thermal aqua tuner in that little slot where I was planning to put it, but I just got too impatient trying to find the right arrangement. So I just put it, on a little platform where I had a bit more space to work with. But I honestly kind of wish I did put it in the corner now because I could have put something else in its current spot. Time for another duplicate. Some episodes we get a bunch, some we get none. Now, I can't remember if the 10 strength stacks with each other. I think they did, or at least that's what I thought at this time, that's why I got Anchorage. But either way, a good duplicate to have just because, it's nice to have a duplicate that specializes in moving stuff. Honestly, the most annoying part of this entire project was dealing with all this abyssalite. You have to dig it out slowly and piece by piece so that your duplicates don't fall into lava and you don't have a major accident somewhere. That's just the thing with dealing with lava though. You have to be slow and careful. And you have to micromanage it yourself, which means you can't just order a bunch of commands and then go AFK, or something will go wrong. Why did I even speak? But luckily, it wasn't a lava-related accident. I just forgot to deal with all the excess water that my bathroom setup makes. So don't forget about that either, because it's pretty important. But the cool thing about dealing with all this magma is the fact it's actually really satisfying when you break a block and it just all seeps out, and you actually get to see the level drop. I think it's pretty awesome at least. You can be at the end of the game. You can have everything in this game, but there's one truth that will remain. Duplicates, no matter what, will find a way to get stuck. This is oxygen not included after all. I'm using hydrogen in this room because I didn't know about the awesome usage of conduction panels at this time, unfortunately. Thinking about it now, using diamond tiles might not be the most efficient use of diamond, especially for a basic steam room, considering how hot the magma is, but at least you can make your own diamonds and spaced out. I'm using specifically cold brine, mostly just because it's what I have at the moment. It's junk, I'm not using it for anything else. And it's gonna get extremely hot in here anyways, so why not? One of the things I really wish they changed in this game is replacing tiles. If you replace a tile, what will generally happen is that some gas will seep through, usually ruining everything. That's why placing these heavy watt conduction panels are so annoying, because I have to clear out extra space so I can separate the areas. Also, having a recreation room in your base is nice so that the duplicates don't go outside and waste your precious Atmosuit durability. Don't worry, I did disable the water cooler later on. Even when it's disabled, it counts as a furniture building. A while back, I saw a pretty cool post on Reddit showing an interesting liquid reservoir and metal refinery setup that I at least wanted to try. It basically lets you store extra coolant so that you can have a way bigger buffer for how many things you can make at once. I like it, it's an incredibly amazing setup. And here's the picture. If you can't tell by now, this is basically just a giant power generation room. We're using geothermal energy, in the form of hot magma, to activate steam turbines to generate some excess power for our incredibly power-hungry industrial brick. Everyone has probably seen this a million times just like I have, so I don't really have to explain it any further. I'm also moving all of my important power buildings, mostly power transformers, in here just because they produce quite a bit of heat and I'd rather have that heat be useful than just wasted. The final major project of today is going to be making a deep freezer so we can store all of our food in it. And also, automating our kitchen a little bit, adding some more stuff to it, but it is mostly just the deep freezer we're going to be working on. If you don't know how one of these works, is you pretty much just have all of your food in a sealed area that you chill to a certain temperature, usually with chlorine or carbon dioxide in the background. Well, almost always, unless it's a vacuum of some sort, to make sure that the food doesn't, have germs on it. And to make the steam turbine setup, I'm gonna have to vacuum out a room real quick. I really should have planned this deep freezer instead of just trying to put it in. And if you can see the first mistake I make before I show it to you guys, congratulations. Hint, gas tile. So yeah, I should have replaced the mesh tiles at the bottom with normal tiles that can't transfer gas. My bad, I wasn't thinking when I did this. I don't think most of the time. Alright, a bit later, and I had a better plan. What if I built the steam room for the thermoregulator first, and then put the steam turbine on top? I'm putting liquid in so that it pushes out all the gases, which, I probably should have done first, because it's way smarter and way quicker than, wasting all that power and vacuuming the whole place out. But, that's in the past. This is the present. Honestly, I had no clue what I was trying to do before, but I think this turned out a little bit better. Unfortunately, I had to cut down a few tiles in the Great Hall, because we need just a little bit more space to fit in an auto sweeper and conveyor loader. And now, finally, all of our food can be stored in one spot. We don't have to power a bunch of refrigerators, and best of all, we won't lose an insane amount of food just because it spoils. Awesome! The only issue is this is a gas-based setup, which means it's going to take way longer to cool. But in total, it's actually more efficient once it gets cool than having to run a liquid aqua tuner. That's going to be it for this episode of Oxygen Not Included. I hope you guys enjoyed. And of course, thank you guys for watching. If you really enjoyed, perhaps leaving a like, maybe even subscribing. Anyways, this is going to be Enzo from LookIntoGaming, signing out.